Big Gamer out here. How are you guys doing today? I'm super. Thanks for asking. So guys, with a couple of pieces of news coming out recently, my interest has really been piqued into who's going to kind of catch up with Sony in the console market. Is it going to be Xbox One with their new Scorpio hardware that was just announced, or could it be Nintendo Switch with their unique console handheld hybrid? So first I just wanted to talk a little bit about Switch. The news came out recently that the Switch actually sold 2.4 million units in March, which was his opening month, which is great momentum. It's outpaced the Wii U significantly, and is even keeping tabs with the likes of the Nintendo Wii. But let's be honest guys, it did launch with Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which is a phenomenal game. Not only that, but it is a Zelda title, and if you remember, the Wii, it also launched with Twilight Princess, and these games, they tend to sell quite well. So until the Switch sells, say, like 10 million units, it's hard to say. And with the Q2 games lineup already been kind of revealed by Nintendo through their latest Nintendo Direct, it's acceptable, but I can only see two games there selling over a million units, which are Splatoon 2 and Mario Kart. So it's up to those to really try and carry the momentum through to Q3, which is where the Nintendo Switch will have to do most of its damage this year. And the Q3 games lineup, I hope, will be buoyed by a very big E3 presence. They not only need to bring titles of their own. Super Mario Odyssey playable would be really good. If they could bring Metroid, that would be really good. But also they're going to need third-party support, and most of that's going to come in the way of Japanese publishers, I do believe. With recently in the news, Konami coming out and saying they really want to support the Switch, and Square actually going and saying they're actually not going to support other systems so much because they're trying to focus on the Switch. Personally, I think that From Software should bring over Dark Souls 3, maybe a Game of Year edition. That Square should probably bring the likes of Dragon Quest over finally after so much speculation, and maybe some reboots of some old Final Fantasies, maybe some remasters, and Konami should come with something like a Castlevania, something that people relate to Nintendo. And if they get that third party support, especially the Japanese stuff, which is going so well over in the West at the moment, and if they can bring Mario Odyssey and obviously nail their Q2 Mario Kart and Splatoon 2 launches, it could be a lot of momentum for Microsoft and Sony to deal with coming into holiday 2017. So that brings me on to Scorpio. So recently Digital Foundry confirmed the Scorpio is significantly more powerful than PlayStation 4 Pro, with higher clocks to the GPU and CPU. Not only that, but the GPU with its 12GB of RAM dedicated to the GPU, 8GB of that VRAM will be available to games as a minimum, and that's a lot. That's kind of on the same level as like an RX 480 or something. And they're saying that 4K games should really be available a lot of the time, native 4K mind, not upscaled. So that's a really big comparison, and that extra VRAM headroom should really help with that. Not only that, but it's bringing DirectX 12 to consoles for the first time, and this is really, really big because and giving developers really low level API access to this. So you should see games really, really well optimized, similar to how Doom was optimized really well for AMD GPUs, which obviously this will have, and getting massive frame rates or getting really good resolutions with very stable frame rates out of it. So 4K, they've already shown Forza 6, 60 frames a second. Now this was a little bit controversial in my opinion because obviously a lot of those screen caps were shown when the cars were stationary and what have you, but I trust in Digital Foundry that 60 frames is hittable most of the time for that game, but it is a game that's a couple of years old now. Now, will Forza 7 be outputting 60 frames per second 4K? It's possible, but I don't think every game will be able to maintain that. I think 4K 30 frames a second with the specs I've seen is doable, but remember the PlayStation 4 Pro is only doing 1440p at 30 frames per second some of the time. It's not even getting close to native 4K at 30 frames. So if we can get native 4K at 30 frames, I think that's really good. Native 4K at 60 frames, I mean, it's amazing. I'd find it really hard to believe they can do that all the time, but I do believe maybe some first party titles and some indie titles will definitely be hitting that, and it's going to look amazing. As far as a Scorpio games lineup, on E3 I expect things like Forza 7 to be shown, Crackdown, which we haven't seen in a long time because it was requiring cloud support. Maybe it doesn't need that now with this massive increase to the clock speed of the CPU, which is what that was mostly using, and some boost mode stuff. So maybe say Forza 6 showing off the fact that it can actually use the hardware, the sheer grunt of it, to kind of push frame rates and resolutions older titles up, which would be a real bonus because it's a lot of work for Microsoft, but it is a feather in their cap. They did it with the Xbox 360 games working better on the Xbox One. Now if they can show the current Xbox One games that are already out now performing so much better, and maybe even better than the PlayStation 4 Pro games. This would be a massive feather in their cap for sure. And maybe one big third-party title with a lot of people going out to say, what if they brought Red Dead Redemption out on stage? What if they could show that in 4K? That would be really big, and it would be really big. And all of this should really give the Xbox One Scorpio the digital foundry effect. And what I'm saying there is, back when the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One first released, Digital Foundry put a lot of videos out there showing a PS4 running at 1080p native and Xbox One running at 900p, things like Battlefield 4 for instance. And this really helped sales for a lot of us customers out there that maybe have both consoles or have the ability to buy whatever console they want and buy the best version of each game. It should allow the Xbox One Scorpio to kind of capture that high-end market. So it might not be the most amount of customers, but it is a significant amount of customers, and it is all revenue that the Xbox needs. So both systems are basically coming at the angle from, we are the best way to play these games, whether it's Nintendo with their convenience, being able to take the game on the go and play it whenever you want, or whether it's with Microsoft, who are kind of putting out the best foot forward and saying the games will look better on our systems, come play them here. I actually think the winner, as far as at least this holiday season will go, is actually going to be Nintendo Switch, because I think that video games are king. It's the software that will actually sell the machine, and I can't see Microsoft coming out with a game as compelling as Mario Odyssey. I think if Mario Odyssey does come this year, which I hope it does this holiday season, I think it will be the difference maker, and I still see the Switch selling a couple of million, maybe even 3 million units over the holiday period, whereas I see Xbox One Scorpio selling kind of 1 to 1.5 million units in that kind of November-December period. So certainly still successful and a big money maker at probably $500 a piece. And all of this is really good news for us, the consumers, because I think these guys are really coming out and they're trying to give us new compelling ways to get our content and experience our games, and that's only ever a good thing. So guys, if you like this video, if you want me to keep coming along with these latest news videos, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next week.